But what this does, my friend, is it gives us the capacities to probe, to grow, to be, to explore, to become. We are the ones who are at the cutting edge of history, of which there is an incredible before and after of which that is almost mythic in scope.
Amen. It's coming at a time that we're feeling it in such waves and quickness and almost like a quickening. How can social artistry guide us here with this?
Well, social artistry is a term that I essentially invented some years ago, quite a few years ago actually. And it really means that the canvas of the social artist is society. Just like a fine artist has their canvas with paints or their clay or their music, but in this case it is society. And so what I've been doing is training a great many people around the world in social artistry, in really being able to bring those passionate skills of being able to really get themselves into the real spirit and the authentic power of different cultures, of being able to use these different human development tools to expand their awareness, their senses, their own, the enormous, marvelous forms, many forms of their own psychology, so they are not, as I said, these encapsulated bags of skin with a little ego, but the fact that we have many, many more parts of themselves. So working with the UN and other international agencies, I go into places where there are very real troubles, and we work from inside out to expand the human capacity that then is able to look at the social problems in much, much more coherent and beautiful and artistic ways, you see.
That's incredible. It must be life-changing for those who are working with you in the social artistry. I mean, it must be. It must change their whole perspective.
People think so.
Because it comes from a place of, you're because you work with a lot of youth too, don't you? Did you bring a lot of?
I work literally with people at all ages.
On all ages. Okay, so
from
so
babies
say they
up
had
to people in their 90s,
Oh, wow. That's a big, wide realm of people there. Do you find that as they walk out of their comfortable existence and they're in a place that they're kind of in a little bit of a culture shock, do you see like the aha moments? Do you see that awakening come across their face? Do you see that, that shine that they feel that they're fulfilling something by being there?
Yes, and they want more. Which is why people go to my website, they'll find opportunities for this sort of thing. GeneHouston.com.
GeneHouston.com, yes. We're going to definitely put that in there, too.
Yeah.
Now, as we're going through the scarecrow.
You're breaking up a little bit. So.
Okay, can you hear me now?
No. No, your voice is breaking up.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. As we're going through the story, and now Dorothy has Toto, as always. She has the Scarecrow. She has the Tin Man. And she comes across the lion. And the phrase here is that when I read it, I wrote it.
All right, now, Lisa, you're breaking up. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
No, you're breaking up.
Okay, hold on just a moment. I'm not sure. It's a landline, so it shouldn't. How's this?
Yeah, that's better now. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Closer to the reception.
Well, just ask the question, and if I'll try to figure out what you're saying, and then I'll respond.
Okay. So as we have the lion on the path, you have a phrase in the book that made me crack up. It was his blowhard bravado, and I do believe I have used that phrase once or twice in my lifetime explaining a male ego. However, let's talk about the male's blowhard bravado, where he was very, very insecure, but he was showing something that was not really where he was coming from, but what he felt he needed to exude. Let's talk about how that really can be a source of inauthentic being, and then how he actually came into his being by just kind of being slapped across the face by Dorothy.
Okay, I really didn't hear your question because of the breaking up, but I will just presume what you were saying. He begins in bravado because of fear. How many people do you know who are there blowing off steam and being angry, and acting angry because they're putting up a wall, a shell, because they really have not had a chance to either be acknowledged for the depth of who they are, to be seen for their gentleness. I'll give you an example. I have found very often that people who have a lot of anger in them, actually, in terms of the positive quality, it is as if they have the chance to be a poet of their own emotions, as if they can hold an artist's palette, with its many, many, many colors, and the different colors are different shades of emotion, from gentle and tender to loving to strong to roaring to quiet. But often in our society we are not permitted to explore the incredible poetic and musical range of our emotional selves. We try to do it sometimes by our songs or by our stories, but I've often found that when you find people who are just blowing off and being bravado, it is because, in part, it's not just that it is the dying of the old form of the masculine. It is much more interesting. It's that they need access to the complexity of the spectrum of the multicolored richness of their emotional life.
That's beautiful. Now, how do they find that?
Well, one of the ways is to pay attention. When they find themselves in other kinds of emotional states, not anger, but tenderness, but lovingness, but deep appreciation or gratitude, to really rest there and explore it, instead of just letting it just go by and put on the stockpile of interesting experiences. What you appreciate appreciates. Where you put your attention is where you are going to grow.
And so the aware person who has anger issues and catches themselves in those moments where they're actually expanding more of the compassion and the love and the joy, will they then start to catch themselves from being angry and then diminish that anger within them?
What they will do is replace it.
Okay.
They will replace one thing with the other. That's the beauty of our nervous systems and our moods and our emotional systems, that we have really a great deal of orchestral control. It's just that we don't do it. We are given in our body mind a Stradivarius, and we come to play it like a plastic fiddle. But to play the Stradivarius of our mind, our body, of our emotions, is to enter into an inscape and landscape of human possibilities that is so gorgeous that one has no other choice but to continue to explore this phenomenal instrument that we've been given.
And by exploring our phenomenal instrument of our being, part of that would be kind of really being real with ourselves on where our passions lie and where our desires lie, would you say?
Well, yes, but whose passions? Are they your passions, or are they what society thinks your passions should be?
No, it would definitely be the person's passions, the individual.
But I'm saying that's the kind of thing in asking. And also finding, as I said, I was a close friend of Joseph Campbell, who was really one of the happiest people I ever knew, the great mythologist,
right,
and who gave this famous phrase, follow your bliss. Because if you follow your bliss, it's going to take you to all kinds of interesting adventures and places, and you'll stop boring God,
Phenomenal man.
Yeah, he was. But he was enormously happy because he was given to accepting and delighting in the sunshine, in a passage of music, in nature, in, the smell of a good dinner. I mean, he really was present to life. And when you come present to life, life becomes present to you, and even better, it starts giving you more and more presence in the forms of coincidences, synchronicities, and the sheer effulgent, as my Sicilian grandmother said, abundanza of life.
and that's also part of that chapter that we were talking about earlier about becoming more aware of all of your senses and becoming more in tune to all of
very
those
much so.
nature and natural essences that we have around us all the time.
Exactly.
Now, we move into a lot of neuro-linguistic programming. You talk about a lot of neurology, let's talk about neuroplasticity and what that is and how.
What did you say,
Neuroplasticity?
Plasticity, yes.
Because you talked about how we can engage in self-directed neuroplasticity. How can we do that?
Now, you've mentioned that a number of times. So what I would like to know is, what is it about neuroplasticity that has really gotten to you?
What I really appreciate is the ability to recreate our thoughts and also to move through our blocks and our fears with that. And so we had talked about how the scarecrow was moving along and recognized his own essence, and then he went into a heap. He went into the heap, and then he jumped to his feet and started to dance and became animated and all those aspects. But this piece is more of, and that we were talking about a contemplative neuroscience. Is that the same aspect of neuroplasticity, or is that a different aspect of it?
Oh, it's many aspects of it. The brain, we know, as I say in the book, is not hardwired. It is not a complex machine that cannot change. It has, as I say, tremendous capacities for reorganizing and regrowing itself. So, for example, this is what I love. If one part fails, then another part that seemingly has nothing particular to do with that function takes over. So where there's a death of brain cells, there's also the rebirth of new ones. And brain circuits can recircuit themselves. We can recircuit ourselves. So as my good old friend Bruce Lipton is showing, thinking, learning, acting, intending, meditating, enjoying experiences can activate the very genetic structure of our bodies as well, and thus with our brains, so that we literally can shape not only our brain anatomy and behavior, but we can grow new capacities and even, I believe, a newly evolved human version of ourselves. And so my life's work has been in showing people how to really grow this evolved version of themselves, what I call the possible human. And as you develop the possible human, my friend, you really do develop the possible society as well.
Right. And that's, it fascinates me because there is so much new research being done upon the brain with Alzheimer's and the increase of Alzheimer's. And so I am really fascinated by the fact that we can take control more of our being than what we were first led to believe by science. And so the fact that we have the ability to regrow new aspects of our brain if one becomes a little atrophied, that aspect to me is fascinating because it gives me hope for a whole generation of people that may have to deal with an aspect within their family or themselves with Alzheimer's, because to me that is the next aspect of health that we need to really focus upon.
Yeah, I believe that a lot of what we think of as Alzheimer's will be disappearing as we extend our natural age range. I mean, the human being is the only mammal that does not live 10 to 12 times the age of puberty. I mean, your dog lives to be 12, 14, 15. Your cat sometimes lives even longer, but and the point of it is that we should have 100 good years. So that is part of it, but we can't have 100 good years with Alzheimer's. Now,